I wasn't planning to start the morning that way. The company party had come and gone. Just another catered night at a country club with name tags and overused buzzwords. Taylor had gotten home late, smelling like champagne and spearmint gum. She dropped her heels by the door, said something about the valet being slow, and went straight to the bathroom. I barely saw her before she slipped into bed beside me. She was distant, but I told myself she was just tired. I didn't push. The next morning, I poured a cup of black coffee and flipped open my laptop, expecting the usual mess of overnight emails and flagged items from clients who thought weekends didn't exist. What I found instead stopped me mid-sip. It was a featured post on her company's internal networking hub, shared externally too, on LinkedIn of all places, under the corporate culture and community account. The banner read, "Real partnerships aren't written on paper, 2 hearts #nightfortwo." Right below that was a professionally taken photo. Taylor, my wife of 6 years, standing beside her boss, Mark Whitmore. I'd met him maybe twice. Both times he shook my hand too hard and smiled like he practiced it in the mirror. In the photo, Taylor wore that green satin dress she claimed was too formal for the night. She told me it was staying in the closet. "It feels like too much," she'd said as she pulled something more modest from her side of the wardrobe. Except, there it was. She stood shoulder to shoulder with Mark. His hand rested on her lower back. Too familiar, too natural. And she was angled slightly toward him, smiling that effortless, dazzling smile that had first drawn me in years ago. But it wasn't for me this time. It was for someone else. Maybe even everyone else. I scrolled through the comments. Such a strong pair, clapping hands. The dream team we didn't know we needed. Fire. You two crushed it last night. #team energy. Can we talk about how stunning Taylor looks? Smiling face with heart eyes, green heart. This is what corporate chemistry really looks like. Eyes. Taylor even replied to one. You know how we do, smiling face with sunglasses, nail polish. My throat went dry. I set the mug down without realizing I'd missed the coaster. A faint ring formed on the surface of our kitchen island, but I didn't care. My focus stayed locked on that image. I zoomed in slightly. I knew every expression my wife made. Her real smiles, her polite ones, the fake laughs she used when cornered by her mother, the smirks when she caught me watching her from across the room. This wasn't any of those. It was genuine, comfortable, maybe too comfortable. I sat with it for a while, refreshing the page, hoping I'd imagine the whole thing. When Taylor finally wandered into the kitchen, she was in one of my oversized shirts, stretching her arms above her head like a cat. She smiled when she saw me. "Morning," she said, heading toward the cabinet for a mug. "Morning," I replied, but my voice didn't match hers. She caught on fast. She always did. "You good?" she asked casually, but there was a flicker in her eyes. I turned the laptop around so she could see the post. Her gaze barely lingered before she rolled her eyes. "Oh, that." She let out a laugh. "God, Mark is so dramatic. It's like a thing now. He does these ridiculous captions after every company event. We all joke about it." I didn't laugh. The caption says real partnerships and has a heart. 2 hearts, actually. And the hashtag says night for 2. She waved her hand dismissively as she poured her coffee. "It's just a joke, babe. Like an internal thing. Everyone knows it's not literal. We've done these events before. Posed sh*ts. Goofy hashtags. Mark thinks it builds morale or something." I stared at her. "So that pose wasn't real?" She shrugged. "They told us to stand that way for the photo. The photographer literally positioned us like that. It's supposed to look polished." "His hands on your waist. It's not like he grabbed my ass, Scott," she said sharply, then softened. "Sorry. I think you're reading way too much into this." I nodded slowly, but didn't respond. She sipped her coffee, leaned against the counter, and sighed. "This is what I meant the other week. About trust. You've been kind of reactive lately." "Reactive?" "Yeah." She glanced down, then back up at me. "It's a picture. A staged picture. And now we're sitting here dissecting it like it means something it doesn't." I watched her. Her tone was steady. Her body language, composed. But that's what unsettled me the most. She wasn't caught off guard. She was already armed with answers. What about the caption? I asked again quietly this time. She smiled like a teacher explaining a concept to a stubborn student. It's irony, Scott. You know how people over-romanticize work relationships. It's commentary. I waited for more, but she pivoted. You've been tense lately. Maybe we should take a weekend. Just us. Somewhere quiet. You've been working so much, you're tired. Just like that, she made the conversation about me. About my stress, my perception, my reactions. The photo became background noise, a misinterpreted joke. Her wordplay? Impeccable. The redirect? Seamless. I nodded again, but this time with less certainty. She leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Don't let internet strangers ruin your morning." Then she walked back toward the hallway, already scrolling on her phone. And I just sat there, staring at the screen again, heart racing, unsure of what I even believed anymore. I tried to shake it off. That was the first mistake. I told myself it was just a bad read, a one-off misunderstanding. I told myself that if Taylor said it was staged, ironic, harmless, then I should believe her. That's what trust looks like, right? Giving your partner the benefit of the doubt. Taking their word even when something feels off. But doubt doesn't sit quietly. It moves. It slithers through the cracks of your memory, revisiting every strange moment you once overlooked. It turns ordinary things into questions. It rewrites your timeline with a permanent marker. By noon that same day, my mind was already connecting dots I hadn't meant to connect. I remembered 2 weeks ago, when Taylor said she was flying to San Diego for a last-minute summit. She packed light, didn't ask me to drop her at the airport, and mentioned that she'd be sharing an Uber with a few team leads. When she came home 2 days later, she was more rested than usual after travel, upbeat, unusually affectionate. I remember thinking she looked relieved. Back then, I chalked it up to her finding balance. I even told her I was proud of her for maintaining her energy under pressure. Now, that trip sat differently in my memory. It wasn't the trip itself that stood out. It was what she didn't tell me. Like the second name tag I found in the bathroom drawer that same weekend. Hers had been clipped to the outside of her purse, but this one had a different design. It read Mark Whitmore, Strategic Division. I assumed she'd picked it up by mistake. Or maybe he'd left it in her bag by accident. I never asked. Why didn't I ask? I went upstairs and opened her travel drawer. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe the name tag, maybe a receipt, maybe some proof that this was all in my head. But the drawer was empty, organized, unnaturally so, as if someone had gone through and tidied it with intent. Another dot. That same week, she updated the passwords on her laptop and phone. Said IT had forced a reset company-wide. Fair. But then she started shutting her laptop every time I walked into the room. Calls ended abruptly. Notifications disappeared before I could glance at her lock screen. Once or twice, she'd even take calls outside on the porch, saying it was too loud inside when it wasn't. That's when I started noticing her walks. Taylor had never been one for long walks. She liked the idea of them, but in practice, she'd get bored or distracted. Lately, though, she'd started going for evening clears, as she called them, usually right after dinner. No coat even when it was cold. No headphones. Just her and her phone in hand. She'd return about 40 minutes later, sometimes flushed from the air, sometimes unusually giddy. Not loud happy, just light, floaty. But when I asked what she'd listened to, she'd say nothing really, or just caught up on voice notes. Her phone would come back low on battery, sometimes dead. She always brushed it off. Guess I forgot to charge. I stopped asking. One night I offered to join her on a walk. She hesitated, just for a second. Said she needed the alone time, said it helped her think. I let her go, not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't ready to face what it meant that she didn't want me with her. And then there were the conversations. They used to flow, over dinner, during errands, in the car. But lately, she'd started stumbling when describing work events. Skipping details, flipping timelines, saying she was at one place when her calendar showed another. I only noticed because we shared a family iCloud. It wasn't snooping. It was accidental. But once I saw the gaps, I couldn't unsee them. One time she said she was at a seminar all afternoon, but her location history had her stationary at a private hotel lounge for over 3 hours. I never brought it up. I didn't want to be the guy tracking his wife's phone. I wanted to believe the glitch explanation. I wanted to believe her. But now I was sitting in a house full of flickering signals I'd pretended were stable. At dinner that night, she asked if I'd seen a good weekend for us to visit her sister in Vermont. Her tone was normal, relaxed. She wasn't tense because she didn't think I was suspicious. She didn't know I'd replayed the company photo in my mind all day, turning it over like a pebble in my hand. I studied her. The way she spoke without checking my eyes. The way she filled the space with practical plans. She was managing the narrative again, gently, subtly, directing the flow before I had time to ask about anything else. "I'll check the calendar," I told her. I said it lightly, but I didn't mean it. That night, while she showered, I sat in our bedroom with the door half closed, thinking. It wasn't just one thing. It was the collection of things. The pattern. The way everything aligned so neatly if I allowed for just one possibility. That she wasn't being honest. That she had something to hide. That someone else might already know a version of her I no longer had access to. And still, I hadn't confronted her. I didn't have proof, just friction. Just a growing ache in my chest that told me something was out of place. That the woman who used to leave notes in my lunch and texts during meetings was slipping behind a version of herself I couldn't reach. When she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, her skin warm and flushed, she smiled and asked if I wanted to watch something. I nodded. Sure, whatever you want. Because in that moment I didn't want to fight. I didn't want accusations or drama or crying. I wanted to sit beside her like it was still normal, like everything hadn't shifted beneath us. I wanted to pretend, for just one more night, that I still had time to be wrong. But I knew. Something had already broken. I just hadn't seen the crack form until now. The email came on a Tuesday afternoon, tucked between an insurance reminder and a junk offer for discount tires. It was anonymous. No subject. No signature. Just a short sentence. You deserve to know the truth. Attached were 4 files. I hesitated for a second. Scams usually came with links, not photos. This felt different, personal, measured. I hovered over the attachments. They were all JPGs, 3 photos and a PDF. I clicked the first image. Taylor and Mark stood in a hotel hallway. She wore jeans and a soft gray sweater, one I'd bought her for her birthday last year. He was in sweats and a tee, holding a plastic keycard and glancing over his shoulder. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes were on him. Not nervously, not like they'd been caught, but like this was just another Tuesday for them. The hallway was unmistakably a hotel. I recognized the pattern of the carpet instantly, vintage red and gold swirls under warm lighting. Something upscale. Something quiet. I clicked the second photo. They were in a spa. Not just a spa, a couple spa. Private. 2 chairs with hot stones on side trays. Eucalyptus towels folded with precision. Taylor was in a robe. He was too. Her legs were crossed, one arm resting on her knee. She leaned toward him, smiling. Her hand grazed his. The photo was taken from an angle, like through a window, maybe a half-open door. The third image nearly made me drop the laptop. They were sitting at an outdoor patio table. Candles flickered on either side of a dessert plate between them. Chocolate drizzle on white porcelain. The words "Happy Anniversary" written in cursive. Taylor laughed in the picture. Her hand covered her mouth, and her face was tilted toward the sky. I knew that laugh. I'd seen it 100 times. That wasn't a work laugh. That was her real one. The one she saved for moments she didn't know were being watched. I opened the 4th file, the PDF. A hotel invoice. 5 pages. Every line typed with brutal clarity. Check-in. The Portland Renaissance, 4 nights. Room type. Executive King Suite. Guest 1, Taylor Holloway. Charge notes. Anniversary upgrade requested. Add-ons. Champagne, roses, Spa credit, dessert plate. Total, $2,472.89. Payment, corporate card ending in 93. There was a note at the bottom. Guest requested early check-in and no housekeeping. I reread it 3 times. Then again. I felt like I was floating, like my body had disconnected from the chair. The first photo, the hallway, that outfit. She wore it the same weekend she claimed she was in Boston for a product workshop. She said she'd be presenting in front of execs, nervous about the Q&A. I remember texting her the night she was supposedly preparing slides and getting no response for hours. The hotel invoice had dates, receipts. It wasn't just a fling. It was planned, coordinated, like clockwork. I sat there for almost an hour, just staring at a truth I had suspected but never truly imagined in full color. And then, just as numbness started to creep in, anger followed. Not the kind you yell with, the quieter kind. The kind that settles in your chest like a fist curling up behind your ribs. It wasn't just betrayal. It was precision. There was a method to all of it. Every excuse, every pivot, every delayed text and suspicious walk. She didn't just cheat. She engineered it. And all this time, she let me think I was paranoid. She called me reactive, said I needed rest. She shifted the blame like a magician hiding the coin under a different cup. I closed the laptop and stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I wanted to. I wanted to feel shattered. But I didn't. I just felt still, hollow, like I'd been holding my breath for weeks without knowing it. That night, Taylor came home like nothing had changed. She kicked off her shoes, told me traffic was a nightmare, and asked if I'd eaten. Her voice was bright, perky even. I watched her move around the kitchen like it was still her space, like she still had that right. "You okay?" she asked, eyes flicking up to mine. I nodded. Just tired. Work was heavy. She gave a sympathetic smile. Same. Back-to-back calls. I didn't even eat lunch. I almost laughed. She was so good at it. At the normal. At slipping back into routine like nothing was unraveling beneath her feet. I wondered if she even remembered where she'd been on those 4 nights. If she still had the robe from the spa folded somewhere in her drawer. I said I was going to bed early. She didn't question it. In the bedroom, I locked the door for the first time in years and turned off the lights. Not to sleep. I just needed darkness. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I thought about the dessert plate. Happy anniversary. That was what broke me the most. The audacity of those words. A joke maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it was their anniversary. The start of whatever it was. A whole second life. At some point, Taylor knocked lightly on the door. "You sleeping?" I didn't answer. After a while, I heard her walk away. I stayed awake until the sun came up. I didn't react the way I thought I would. No yelling. No confrontation. No middle-of-the-night accusations with shaking hands and tearful demands. It was all quieter than that. Slower. The kind of response that doesn't make headlines but leaves a deeper mark. Like a surgeon's scalpel instead of a hammer. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm. Taylor was still asleep beside me, her breathing slow and even, one arm draped across the comforter like nothing had changed. I watched her for a while, not out of love, just observation, trying to figure out how someone could lie so completely and still sleep like that, peacefully, almost smug. That was the moment I decided. If she was capable of hiding this much from me for this long, I had to start protecting myself. Not emotionally, financially, legally, logistically, the kind of protection that didn't rely on trust anymore. Before I even brushed my teeth, I was on the phone with my financial advisor. "Do it," I said. "Activate the trust." We'd set it up a couple of years back. At her suggestion, actually. At the time, it was framed as a way to future-proof our assets. "Just in case," she said, like we were planning for earthquakes or wildfires. I agreed, thinking it was smart, responsible. I didn't know I'd one day use it to separate my life from hers with surgical precision. By lunch, the trust was live. My individual assets, retirement accounts, pre-marriage investments, inherited stocks from my grandfather, moved into protected territory. Taylor's name was nowhere on it. Couldn't be. That was by design. Next came the joint accounts. I sat in my home office, coffee going cold beside me, and pulled up our banking dashboard. The numbers glowed on the screen: shared money, co-signed credit, automated bill pay. All the symbols of a life lived in parallel. Until now. I paused before clicking the suspend access button. Felt surreal, like a scene from someone else's story. But I clicked it. Access revoked. Just like that, Taylor's ability to move funds between accounts, approve wire transfers, or initiate large purchases was gone. It was clean, silent, unannounced. Our shared credit card followed. I froze her profile with 2 clicks. The pending transactions would go through. She'd probably get lunch, maybe gas, but after that, nothing. If she tried to book a hotel tonight, it would decline. Not out of spite, just necessity. Then came the biggest step, her job. I drafted the email with more caution than anything I've ever written. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to be factual. Neutral. Documented. I wasn't out for blood, I was laying groundwork. Quiet groundwork. Subject line: professional conduct. Submitted for HR review. From legal at an account I had set up specifically for this. To HR, executive review, Renwick Corporate Group. Body. Attached, you will find public-facing materials and third-party documentation related to a series of recent events involving Taylor Holloway and Mark Whitmore, both employees of your organization. These materials include photographs taken at company-sponsored events and a corporate travel itinerary charged to company funds. No commentary or conclusions are provided. These documents are submitted solely to ensure awareness and accuracy within your internal review systems. All attachments are unaltered and time-stamped. I attached the photo of Taylor and Mark in the hallway, the spa *T, and the happy anniversary dessert image. I included the hotel invoice, complete with the line showing payment via corporate card. I added the screenshot *T of the public LinkedIn post, the one with #Knifertuo still visible. No narrative, no venom, just facts. When I clicked send, I felt nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction, just a kind of stillness. The rest of the day passed in a fog. Taylor texted me from work to say her meetings were dragging. Going to be a long one, she said with a yawning emoji. I stared at the screen and didn't reply. She had no idea what had already shifted. That night I acted normal. I made pasta, poured her a glass of red. She didn't seem suspicious. She smiled when she walked in, kicked off her shoes, and said something about Mark giving a cringy speech at the all-hands meeting. I listened. I nodded. I even laughed at the right moments. "You're quiet tonight," she said at one point. "Just tired," I replied. "Long day." She kissed me on the cheek and said I should get some sleep. I watched her walk upstairs and disappear down the hallway. The robe she wore brushed against the wall as she passed. It was white with thin gray piping. It looked a lot like the one from the spa photo. I stayed downstairs and stared at the blank TV screen. In the silence, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. What I felt was closer to grief, but not over her. I was grieving the version of myself that used to believe in her. The version of me that took explanations at face value. That thought a hand on the small of her back was just a photo op. That thought 2 champagne glasses in a hotel suite could still be explained away. That man was gone now, and in his place was someone colder, sharper, prepared. Prepared for the fallout. The invitation came in a sleek black envelope with gold foil lettering and an embossed seal that made it feel more like a wedding than a corporate mixer. Taylor opened it while we were sitting at the dining table, her legs crossed and her phone in hand, half watching some video with the volume too low to hear. She ran her fingers over the edges like it was a letter from royalty. "Oh, this is the one at Carter's place," she said. "Private estate thing. Super exclusive. Barely any +1s allowed." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the CEO?" She smiled, eyes still on the invite. "Yeah, he does this once a year. Networking night. Board members, partner execs, senior staff. It's where the real moves happen. Wine, fake laughs, overpriced catering. I'll probably stay an hour and sneak out. I nodded. You taking Mark? She paused for half a second. Barely noticeable, but I caught it. Maybe, she said. We're technically co-presenting next quarter's roadmap. They'll expect us together. I didn't ask if I was invited. I already knew I wasn't. The event was on a Friday. She left work early, came home to change, and spent an hour doing her makeup in the hallway mirror. The one with the soft lighting that she said made her look like someone with secrets. I watched her apply lipstick with the precision of someone preparing for a photograph. Before she left, she stood in the doorway in a dark navy dress I hadn't seen before. Her heels matched, hair pinned back. She looked powerful, like she was dressing for a version of herself that didn't include me. How do I look? She asked casually, grabbing her coat. Like someone about to give a TED Talk, I said. She laughed. That's the energy I'm going for. She kissed me goodbye. It landed somewhere near my cheek. As soon as the door closed, I stood, grabbed the folder I'd prepared earlier that morning and checked through it one last time. Everything was there, chronologically ordered, labeled, and printed on crisp white paper. Nothing dramatic. No post-it notes or angry red marker. Just clean evidence and clean consequences. At 6:45 p.m. I pulled into the driveway of Carter Ellington's private estate. It sat behind a wrought iron gate on the north end of town, perched on a hill like something out of a luxury real estate listing. I'd driven by it once, years ago, when Taylor and I used to walk the neighborhood together and dream about someday. The valet looked confused when I stepped out. I wasn't on the guest list, but I handed him my driver's license, spoke a name quietly into the ear of the assistant at the door, and followed her through the marble foyer like I belonged there. Inside, everything gleamed. Chandeliers, crystal decanters, champagne fountains, like a lifestyle magazine had thrown up in real time. There was music, but it was the kind people talk over. Strings and soft piano, something rich and vague. I spotted Taylor within minutes. She stood near the fireplace, glass in hand, flanked by a small circle of higher-ups. She was telling a story, her voice light, shoulders relaxed, her charm turned all the way up. Her audience leaned in, hanging on every word. Then she said my name, loud enough that I could hear it across the room. She was telling a joke. A harmless one, I'm sure. Something about me misreading a calendar and showing up a day early to her family-only company picnic. Everyone laughed. Taylor smiled. She looked proud of the delivery. I walked forward, slow and deliberate, until I was close enough to see her expression change. Her eyes landed on me, and for the first time in weeks I saw real panic. Not the subtle kind, the real heart-skipping kind. Scott, she said. Her voice faltered. Evening, I said, nodding to the group. A few heads turned. I set the folder down on the serving table beside the catering menus. It didn't make a sound, just a soft thud, heavy enough to be noticed. What's that? Someone asked. Nobody answered. Inside the folder were a full copy of the hotel invoice, annotated, printed screenshot *TS of the LinkedIn post and all public comments, the 3 photos, hallway, spa, and dessert, a summary of financial account changes and trust transfers, an official HR inquiry confirmation, stamped and date-logged, divorce papers. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I turned, walked through the crowd, past the string quartet, past the catering staff arranging shrimp cocktails on tiny spoons. I walked out the same way I came in, with my hands in my pockets and my jaw clenched so tight I thought it might snap. The silence behind me followed like a wave. First, no one moved. Then, slowly, quietly, something unexpected. Applause. I didn't turn around to see who started it. Maybe it was sarcastic. Maybe it was shocked admiration. Maybe they thought it was a performance, some kind of avant-garde announcement of a corporate scandal. I didn't care. I just kept walking, down the driveway, past the valets now whispering, into my car. My hands trembled as I turned the key. Not from fear, from release. It was over. When I got home, the house felt like it had exhaled. I stood in the doorway for a minute, letting the silence wrap around me like a blanket, the kind that doesn't comfort but cleanses. No one came after me, not Taylor, not anyone from her company. Whatever damage was done, was done. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one cleaning it up.